Welcome back to the CITIUS Mac podcast. I'm Chris Chavez.
I'm Kyle Merber.
And I am Mac Fleet.
On today's show, it is silly season in track and field with athletes switching teams and signing new contracts. The Boston Marathon unveiled its deepest field maybe ever. The Millrose Games Wanamaker Mile and Men's 800 were also released. And then World Athletics told us what the Paris 2024 schedule is like. And we'll close it out with our buy or sell segment as usual. But first, Kyle, what Olipop flavor are you drinking? Because I've got a strawberry vanilla in front of me. I'm making my way through all the flavors. As of right now, tropical punch, still my favorite.
Cool. So I had a funny Olipop story. Daycare, kids bring home crazy things. And so Leisha brought home a stomach bug. And so like our whole family was, sick at the same time. I spent Friday night throwing up, all night. Woke up Saturday morning, miserable. Finally feeling a little bit better. I get up out of bed. I go down to the crib. I pick up Leisha and I come back into the room. And I luckily I'm not holding her at this point. I fainted. Like
what?
Like I actually fainted, collapsed. The only time that ever happened to me previously was I was in Mexico for NACAX and I was at altitude and I got up to answer the door and I collapsed like after saying hello to room service and that we didn't need turn down. But I collapsed this weekend, like full on fainted, really scary. Luckily didn't hit anything. And then as soon as my stomach felt like it was okay to like consume liquids again, in my head, I was like, well, mom used to say drink flat Coke or, like ginger ale. So I got a vintage cola Olipop and
saved the day.
Brought me back to life. That was the start of my resurgence. So I don't know if that's like doctor recommended or Olipop recommended, but it was my first liquid in many hours.
Olipop is a prebiotic soda with only 2 to 5 grams of sugar that's actually good for your gut health, and it's delicious and brought Kyle back to life. There's Mac. What are you drinking there?
Nice little cherry vanilla.
Ooh, there you go.
Favorite. Kyle, that's incredible. That's incredibly dangerous.
So dangerous. Like, I mean, my face was probably a foot away from hitting an edge of a table.
You just went completely down.
Full on collapse, like I'd been shot.
Wow.
So it
was terrifying.
I've never had that happen.
I just hadn't had, I dispersed of all liquids of my body through every hole that we have for like 12 hours. And it was scary. Yeah, it was like straight up a terrifying thing. And Patricia watched the whole thing unfold while also dealing with her own illness.
So lesson here, have an Olipop handy to bring you back to life. Use code CITIUS25 for 25% off non-subscription orders. Learn more at drinkolipop.com or click the link or use our promotional code for that discount. So let's get right into it. Here at CITIUS Mag, we love celebrating the athlete contract signings because it's a big deal to sign a professional contract, and especially it's good to see that major brands are investing within the sport. So we saw some big moves over the last 7 days. So here's a quick recap of what stood out to us. Natosha Rogers, who qualified for the World Championship team in the 10K and made her comeback with the Hansons Brooks team, has now signed a contract with PUMA and joined PUMA Elite under Amy and Alistair Craig. She's currently training out in Kenya. The On Athletics Club has Dathan Ritzenheim feeling like Thanos and just stacking up infinity stones of talent on that hand. And the women's side was bolstered by the addition of 420 miler Josette Norris, David Ribich, Brooks Beese. A little bit of a breakup for the sit and kick guys because he's headed to the Union Athletic Club to train under Pete Julian. Charlie Grice and Eric Avila are now training with the Very Nice Track Club and racing under that banner this upcoming weekend. We sent our contributor Xavier Gallo to capture a workout with them on Tuesday, so stay tuned for that video on the CITIUS Mag YouTube channel. NAZ Elite announced the additions of U.S. Marathon champion Paige Stoner and 357 miler Cruz Culpepper. And on that same team, Stephanie Bruce said she's not going anywhere and has decided not to retire after a strong 2022 campaign that was billed as the Grit finale. So she's still around. And that's all that happened within the last couple of days. And we've got a couple more scoops coming soon. So stay tuned to the lap count, the CITIUS Mag channels. Kyle, what stood out to you as the most interesting move of that bunch?
I do just want to start with the overarching theme that, you know, if we're buying something during this segment, then I'm buying the idea that athletes and brands make signings a bigger and bigger deal. And I know that we're huge fans of that. And I think that it's starting to be recognized that we're happy to help in the launching of that. You know, sometimes brands or friends or athletes come to us and give us some scoops. Other times we hear whispers and we go searching them out, but it's part of like what professional sports do. Like this is a big deal when star athletes change teams. Like we should be talking about it. We should be analyzing it. Good move, bad move. What does this mean big picture wise? And so I do like, look, there's no racing really starting yet. It's happening soon. The races are about to start, but this is, I think, a really exciting thing to talk about during the off season.
No, and the other component to it too is just sort of like, pick a team. You've always been a big proponent of like, pick your favorite team. And like, hopefully some of these athlete signings help incentivize that. But then, you know, hopefully as we get the YouTube chat going, like I want to hear from people like what their favorite teams are, and also just like who their favorite athletes are on there, because sometimes it's like if you're a diehard OAC fan, you're especially excited about like the Josette signing, or if you were a Brooks Beast fan, you're a little heartbroken from the David Ribich signing, and like other sports have that. And so hopefully we get a little bit more of that in track. Mac, I guess like of the big moves that were made in the last couple of days, is there anyone that really stood out to you?
Yeah, Josette joining OAC is like super interesting to me, given, I guess, amongst the professional circles, like everyone kind of knows that she isn't a huge aerobic monster in training. So her joining Dathan, I think, is really going to help her, especially the way that she races, because she doesn't necessarily sit and kick. She runs from the front quarter of the field. So I think going to Dathan and really living at altitude and Dathan's sort of nature to have a lot of threshold work is going to like do wonders for her. I think we're going to see Josette from 2 years ago this year.
Something that's funny, Mac, is that Robbie was very similar in the way that he trained to the way Josette has trained. And so, you know, like, I think that there's probably, for someone with her 5K personal best, like her workouts don't always necessarily indicate that. I think she's someone who really does step up on race day. But then when you think about like being surrounded by the women that she's now going to be surrounded by day in and day out, like what is that going to mean for her workouts? And therefore, what is that going to mean for her races? And also, I think we should probably note the fact that like the Reebok Boston Track Club in Virginia, you know, like disbanding, this is largely what like the ripple effects is. Other teams get, you know, the star athletes from that group.
Well, so I think sources are saying that the team is not totally done. It seems like there's still going to be some people that remain with the team, and they just, you know, I believe Graham Crawford re-signed a contract with them. So they're still going to be somewhat involved in running, but just not the full scale. I think behind Josette's move, it's just sort of, you look around, like you're the only woman on that team. And now, you know, to re-sign and be part of that is maybe a little bit more challenging. And instead she's going to a setup where, you know, she's in that sweet spot as the 1500 meter specialist, because she can drop down in distance to focus on the 15, or, you know, get dragged to a sub 2, hopefully by working with Sage. But then, you know, on the longer side of things, working with Alicia Monson and if you really want to go up to the 10K, Helen O'Beary is also there to jump in here and there. But so I really like this setup for her. She's going to make her debut at the Dr. Sander Invitational and then, you know, compete at the Millrose Games. But no, I mean, like, this is a healthy Josette is a dangerous one. And I think last year, you know, she and I recorded a podcast episode that you can listen to before this episode. About just the fact that last year she had a little hamstring injury in the spring leading into the outdoor season, which is why we didn't see her really run the 5K, and there wasn't at 100%. So hopefully with a good block of training, she could get back there. Kyle, is there any other signing that stood out to you?
Yeah, there is. And I just want to quickly, one more thing, CITIUS. I love the idea of having a training partner running for a different country. Yeah. And so, you know, you can work together, a 1500 specialist as well. And you don't have to worry about, you know, beating each other out for a spot. But other exciting signings, you know, Paige Stoner, another athlete from that group, has now joined HOKA NAZ Elite. We just saw her win at CIM, a US title. And so I think untapped potential, or not untapped potential, but like we really don't know what she's going to be capable of a year from now when we're getting into the trials. And, you know, I would say the time that she's running right now and that marathon, probably, you know, you're going to need to be closer to the 220 range, but she's still young. She's new to the event. She won the race. So you don't know what is left in there and what one more year of training does. And then Cruz Culpepper. I mean, I don't know if we didn't see that coming. You normally are looking right now at pros jumping from team to team or re-signing. You're not necessarily looking into the NCAA system.
Yeah. So
how
yeah,
many,
I mean,
how many years do we give Alan Culpepper as like a prove it coach? You know, like I'm sure he signed a contract and everything, but I am interested to see how, you know, how well he does handling a bunch of pros.
2 years
for him.
Coaches get 2 years, I think. That first year, you always, you know, it's new talent, it takes some adjustment. You're getting settled in your ways. And I think by, you know, not everyone hits the ground like Ritz did. You know, that was, I think, a special case for, but most parts, I think, especially with the number of new athletes that are joining NAZ Elite, no judgment, completely judgment free for 2 years.
All right, let's stick with some of the athletes that are part of Dathan Ritzenhein's grip with OAC. The Millrose Games Wanamaker Mile field was revealed. Olli Hoare is back to defend his title after setting the indoor Australian record with a 350 victory last year. And it's a really strong, deep field. I want to hear who you guys got with a couple weeks to go for the race. You've got Cole Hocker, who comes in with a 350 PR, Mario Garcia Romo, Yared Nuguse, Elliot Kipsang, Johnny Gregorek, Sam Tanner, Josh Thompson, Sam Prakel, Drew Hunter. And then, of course, you have to consider the wild card that will be decided at the Dr. Sander Invitational on the 27th. But on this, like, it's, you know, the shortage of not having Josh Kerr in this one, although as enticing and exciting as that would have been, like, Ollie still got his hands full, and I'm particularly excited to see what Cole Hocker does. Last year, he ran the 3K, but this time around, he's hopefully coming in healthy and he, you know, 350. I think the American record is back on watch here.
Yeah, I think, you know, Ollie's definitely the favorite, right? There's no reason not to be after last year. You know, Cole didn't have the summer that we maybe would have expected given some injury issues, but I'm going to say that on paper, most people will look at this field and, you know, see their names sticking out. Yared just wins races. Like that's, he can just win. He wins all the time. It seems like he's, you know, he's got that like gear. Like he's one of those guys who you think is done and then somehow just like finds a way to scrape it together the last 100 and pull it out.
You know, I'd be so curious, like how these guys are looking in practice, like who's leading the reps, who's sandbagging it, who's leaving some left in the tank. And like, I don't know, I guess we'll all find out on February 11th. Mac, who you got?
I like Cole and Yared both under the American record. I think Cole in that duo is the one that takes it, is actually going to come away as the American record holder because I think he's a better indoor runner. I like to imagine Cole Hocker in like the 1980s boards indoor races. I think he would be like Eamon Coughlin on a 168 meter track. Like he would crush that. So I like him taking the cake for the American record, and it's going to be one of those photo finishes with him and Ollie. I think Ollie is the favorite. He finished last year really well. And still seems to train with a chip on his shoulder. I think he still has a like kind of a prove it sort of mindset after Worlds. So yeah, I think it's going to be Ollie and Cole.
It seems like we're all taking chalk. Give me dark horses. Who are you watching?
Neil Gourley. It's my dark horse. I think Neil can close very hard. He ran well last indoor season in the few times that we saw him, I think in BU. And you know, I think there's always this assumption now that every race is going to be a sub 350 race when these guys are in it. But like, you know, maybe they're starting to look around saying, you go, you know, why is it always on me? And I think in a slightly slower race that Neil's got some last 300.
Sam Tanner's in that same category because the two of them went head to head at pre-classic. I think last year was one that was a really good battle. So I would put that guy in the same bucket there.
With the Wanamaker Mile though, you can't be timid. like there's no one that starts the first 600 of that race unless you're Nick Willis and finishes up front. Like Nick Willis, I think, is an anomaly for that. Almost everybody else, you got to be in the first 4 spots through halfway through if you're going to contend.
What was your guys' best finish in the Wanamaker Mile?
I finished third, but I like to say I was second because I tried to win. I was leading with 200 meters to go. Then Jenkins blew by me, and then once he passed me, I was like, done. And then Clayton got me at the last second. So 2.5.
All right, moving on. Another Millrose field that was announced was the men's 800. In that one, Bryce Hoppel is back to defend his title. But you've got a slew of guys who are right on his heels with the likes of Clayton Murphy, Noah Cabet, who's an interesting addition by the Union Athletics Club. Isaiah Harris is back. Kyle Langford, Tonatiuh Lopez, Mark English, and our boy is back at the Armory, and we remember what he did last time. Cade Flatt is the lone collegian in the race. What are you looking out for in this one? Because I am going to safely assume that Cade Flatt gets under the high school record in this one.
I think it's time. I think he's due. The 800 is tough in the sense of it's often a race that requires a few before you're really ready to go. I mean, if you're going to come through in 50 point, you generally want to have done some speed work or at least been there before. And so I think in these earlier season indoor 800s, it does often work out well for some of these guys who come at it from a strength angle. I think Bryce Hoppel is a guy like that, and Clayton is as well.
Mac, what are your thoughts?
I think Bryce is the favorite here. I mean, Clayton's been a little banged up, and I would love to see him healthy because he's a freak when he is healthy. But I think Bryce is easily the favorite here. It's his race to lose.
Yeah. I wonder if, we haven't seen all the fields announced yet. And Kyle, I guess to your point of they need that one race beforehand to really get the wheels moving. But the New Balance Boston Grand Prix is the week before. And, who knows? In the past, we've seen Bryce Hoppel run a 1K there. And so maybe there is something that sets him up to run a bit faster in this race. But I am totally intrigued by Noah Cabet in this one because he was the silver medalist at the World Indoor Championships and, now training alongside the likes of Donovan Brazier. That's a nasty duo. 4x8 there, throw Ribich in there. I don't know. I'd love to see these guys give that 4x8 indoor record a run for the money. So that is the men's 800 at the Millrose Games. Now we also had the Boston Marathon announce the deepest fields in history. Last month, they announced Eliud Kipchoge was going to be the headliner in the race. But then now we've also got Gabriel Gay, who's 2:03 PR, or Pasa Nagasa, Shura Katada, Daniel Donacimiento, Evans Chibet is back. Albert Carrier is in the field. On the U.S. side, Scott Fauble and Connor Mans are the top 2 seeds, but we've got, I think, 5 guys who have gone under 2:10. This one, if you get a windy day, can be a super special, probably like we've seen Mutai run 2:03 there with the talent that Kipchoge brings and the depth of this field. It's not going to be a cakewalk for Kipchoge. And then 2, depending on what the conditions are, has always the potential to be fast. But what excites you the most about this field, Mac? I'm assuming, I guess, Connor Mance just finally rubbing shoulders with the big dogs.
Yeah, I guess, if anyone's heard me talking to a microphone over the last year, when we're talking about the American men's marathoners, we need to get faster. We need to get more competitive. At the very least, as competitive as the women are. I would love to see an American guy that isn't Galen Rupp, or in addition to Galen Rupp, run something like 2:05. So it's just, you look at the Japanese men, there's 100 guys that have run under 2:07. We have 1. We need more. So yes, Connor Mance moving up to the marathon is super exciting to me because he's younger. He's going to have more cracks at it. Yeah, that's on the American side. That's what interests me on the men's side for sure.
I think in general, Boston should be praised for not just giving Kipchoge the layup here. I think that was probably the assumption. It's like, hey, we want him to win, that's their best case scenario, right? But you invite back the defending champion, Evans Chibet, also the winner in New York. Then you bring back the 21 champion and Benson Kipruto, also the past year won Chicago. I
You
think
throw in the guy, sure, Katata has beat Kipchoge in the past. And so like, yeah, from the standpoint, I even started thinking after seeing this field, if Kipchoge doesn't win this one, he's going to have to wait a while to give Boston another crack because of the 2024 Olympics. And then at that point, this whole hype and build up around like win all 6 majors, like starts to slip away. Instead, it's sort of like, he just wants to be a 6-star finisher.
Yeah, we're adjusting expectations. No, I mean, looking through the field, I mean, he's far down the list because his personal best isn't what it, that of those who are running in Valencia all the time. But Albert Carrier, the I think 2-time New York champion,
Well, he won once and then was second, I think, another time.
Okay. So,
like,
he's someone who we've seen successful on the hills of New York, and I think we'll be able to handle Boston well. But the one guy I am most excited for, more so than Kipchoge, do you know who I'm going to say?
Donacimento?
Yes. Like, come on. Because now with Kipchoge in the field, there's no way he's going to run that same first 30K this time around. He's going to sit back and key off him, and then we can actually get some insight into what the fastest non-African born marathoner of all time is capable of when he's not being insane.
That is spicy. Yeah, Mac, you got another addition?
I was going to say, yeah, but what if he doesn't die? What if he does the same thing and doesn't die?
Yeah, he's got to take this thing out. If this guy takes this thing out again, then we're going to see a legitimate sub-2 from Kipchoge in a race.
I love that. All right, women's field. Most sub-18 women on the same starting line. It is just so deep. 9 women who have broken 220. The biggest name in the field is Amani Bariso, who's run 214, number 3 all-time at Valencia. Sharon Lokedi is running her second marathon after winning New York City. You've got Gatyam Gebrselassie, Lona Salpeter, now 2-time Boston champion Edna Kiplagat. And on the U.S. side of things, Sarah Hall and Emma Bates are your top 2 women. So 22 women have broken 224. Like this one is just like, at this point, throw a dart on a wall and see who it lands on. And that's who your pick is to win. It's just unpredictable at this point.
Yeah. I mean, when you consider just how much everyone has improved in marathoning on the women's side in the past year or two, it's kind of like mind-blowing to see the depth now. And now they've kind of done it all over the place, and now we're starting to get everyone here together. I think up front, like, of course, you've got like Bariso, who ran 214 in Valencia, and it's like, what is that not at Valencia? But one name on the non-American front who I'm really excited about, and I'm not sure if every American is necessarily familiar with her, it's Nike Brinkman.
Yes, she's like ultra and yeah, ultra.
She started running like 2-3 years ago and has now run 222. And I believe she medaled at the European Championships, and she was second in Rotterdam. And so I just like, this is an up and coming star. I always look at like the way people are trending and the way that she keeps improving, given the fact that she's so new. I don't think she's going to win, but it's just someone I'm keeping my eye on.
Mac, who stands out to you?
Yeah, I'm excited to see Brinkman too. If this does become like a pack out front, does she go with that? And then also I'm curious about Sharon. Like, can Sharon back up that New York performance and compete with some of the people that, you have expectations now? Like, the expectation now is to podium. I'm really curious to see her back that up.
I think also on the American front, Alphine, like, I was kind of another one where it's like, well, I didn't realize that, and I hate saying it, but like, she's only run 226. Like, she's so good. But between her best races being at the trials in New York, I know she had sort of an abbreviated buildup and still was super competitive in it. What does she do now with a much longer, healthier buildup on what could be a much faster course?
I'm hoping Sarah Hall gets healthy, because we've seen what she's fully capable of in the marathon. And at the same time, like Emma Bates, just like U.S. we say it's like a broken record at this point. Just the depth of U.S. women's marathoning is at a whole nother level. And I guess Boston is, another instance where potentially you have these women who like to stick themselves in it and could end up on the podium. Although this field is super, super deep, that's sort of, I would definitely put as a reach goal for Team USA there.
So something that should be noted is people are looking at the calendar a long ways out, and when considering the Olympic trials coming up, next winter, it makes sense for a lot of people to get a marathon in Boston for April. Mac, I'd be curious, do you think this is the last time we see many of these athletes at the full distance ahead of the trials?
Yeah, I bet you that this is the last time. We'll probably see a lot of halves and 10Ks after this, but I bet you this is the last time we see a lot of fulls. If I'm going to go through this list a little bit, like Sarah Hall, I hope she's healthy. Like
won't be her
Chris,
last time.
Yeah, that won't be her last time. She actually on this list will probably run another one, but Emma Bates doesn't miss. She'll be competitive, and Nell Rojas is in Kenya training right now. So I'm curious to see how she fares coming back from over there.
It's kind of a long way.
Assume it's going to be good
to be doing a camp of sorts. I'm sure we'll see a nice half from her soon, but before then, if you're putting in a block right now in Kenya.
I was just also double checking of the number of Megan Christian entered in Houston this weekend, entered in Boston in April. She's just one. It's now assume no matter what marathon is happening, she hasn't had enough. She's gonna get her reps in before the trials.
On brand.
I liked Nell Rojas's post of her first workout in Kenya. She's a 225 woman, and she was like, I got dropped on the 4th interval and I had to walk. It was the most humbling workout experience of my life. So some newfound perspective, I guess. And I think she's going to come back with some more fitness.
All right. One more topic before we get to buy or sell. World Athletics announced the schedule for the 2024 Olympics to be held in Paris. It is going to run from August 1st to August 11th, 2024. So mark your calendars and start counting down the dates. It's over 500 days to go still. But so all the track and field finals are going to be held in evening sessions. I haven't done the time conversion quite yet as to what that converts to for a US audience, but I would assume it's during the daytime for us. And then another change that's going to happen is the women's marathon is the final event. Usually it's the men, but they're making that change. Another thing is the doubles. Here are the doubles that are going to be possible in Paris. You got the 100 and 200, the 800 and 1500, the 1500 and the 5K, and the 5K, 10K. Now, you looked at the schedule, Kyle, and outlined, I guess, what it looks like for Sydney McLaughlin. Is the 400 hurdles not ideal?
I mean, if you're willing to run a 400 every single day, she could come away with 4 gold medals potentially. Not necessarily the easiest thing in the world, but I do think the 400 and 400 hurdles double is doable. You will be, doing one, then the other, then one, then the other, but you're never doing 2 400s on the same day. And I mean, look, the first heat or two the first round is so easy for her. I don't see why not. I think she can go for 3. I don't think she's going to run the mixed relay, which I have plenty of thoughts on, but 1, why is it an event? 2, if it is an event, why don't you want a gold medal in it? But I do think she has 3 in her.
Mac, what about you? What was there anything of these changes or doubles that you were hoping to see that maybe were discarded from this? The Jakob triple is another one that's been casted out there because he's talked about trying to pull the Sifan Hassan, but a bit straining for sure. But overall, I mean, it's same old.
I mean, he's still got to win the 15 and the 5K before he goes with the triple. Obviously, he's one of the best in the world. He'd have a good shot. Is the long jump and 100-meter double possible for Fred?
For Fred? Well, Kyle outlined Fred. Here's how Fred Curley can win 4 Olympic gold medals. On Saturday, he would run the first round of the 100. Sunday, 100-meter semifinal. Monday, 200-meter round 1, and then the 3,000-meter steeplechase semifinal. After that, Wednesday, you've got the 200 semi, the steeple final, and then after that, 200 final, 4x1 final. That is a nice 4 Olympic gold medal performance by Fred, but unfortunately, I don't think we'll be seeing him in the steeplechase. Yeah. But Fred is one of the
jump is Tuesday, and so he wouldn't have the long jump finals. So maybe you can do just one in the first round, but I don't think we're going to see him in many long jumps this year.
In all seriousness, selfishly, I am really disappointed that Fred isn't doing the 2-4 double. He's going the other way to the 100. I get it. There's more money in the 100 than the 400, but I would love to see a Michael Johnson double in some time in the near future. And Fred would be the guy to do it. Maybe he does it the next cycle, but that's something I really want to see. But Fred's going to crush the 100, 200.
Hey, the one thing that we do have now is, I'm going to butcher probably the pronunciation, the Ribich heats.
Oh God. Yeah. The loser heats, as you called.
The loser heats. So for those who aren't familiar, World Athletics has started this year at Worlds with a heat between the first round and the semifinals. For those who did not qualify the first time around,
You got
they'll have a second
chance.
opportunity to race again in order to qualify for semis, which I hate for so many reasons. But the main one being is like, if you can't make it out of the first round, what are your odds of making it out of the semifinals with one extra race in your legs? Like, imagine, God forbid you do make it to the final somehow. At that point, you will have run 3 1500s, and then you have to go run a fourth, and the one that actually counts. Like, obviously, you're going to come in last.
I don't understand this, because has there been a glaring issue of the stars not making the finals in events? That's what I don't understand. Your stars are making the events in every single event. It's not a problem. And it's more of a story of if a star doesn't make the final. That's a story. Yeah, it sucks, but that's the job. You have to make the final if you're a star. Why do you get another shot now when it's already the bottom % of the entire, population of athletes? It doesn't make any sense.
Look, we've all been in the position before in which we didn't make it out of the first round. I at least am going to include myself in there. And Mac, I think you probably have your fair share as well.
I didn't even qualify.
There was no way I was going to make it the next day in that scenario. Like, I wasn't better off. And then if I did get in, then I was going to be fried. I don't understand. So
and then does the winner of that heat take a spot away?
It's not like they're making the fields bigger, so less people are going to qualify the regular way.
It's so
all right,
stupid.
To kick off the buy or sell segment, selling the repage, whatever it's called.
Yeah. Fully selling that.
I don't think anyone would buy that from you. You just have to discard of it. You throw it away. There's no selling of this idea.
All right, Chris, start us off. What's your buy?
Well, I was going to start with sell. I'm going to sell because it's early. The world best versus world record conversation. We're about to get everything's a world record in our books. Like, imagine we've already complicated things enough to try and explain it to a casual fan, like how the sport works. But then to explain hey, they just ran a 300 world best. All right. I mean, and now I'm double checking myself. Is it 300? Now as a diehard track fan, I'm double checking myself as to is it a world best event or is it a world record event? And it's I shouldn't be everything's a world record, or just the fastest ever. So I'm selling world best. I don't care about world athletics and the guidelines that they've set. We're always going to get people excited. A world record graphic does better than just world best, I guess, to put it out to the masses. So CITIUS mag policy. We're only recognizing records, not bests.
I'm going to also then on that topic sell the idea of world record pending ratification.
And then, the most annoying asterisk on things. And
then trying to celebrate it 4 months later when it's finally been ratified. I want to know what's happening in those 4 months.
They're checking P, they're processing the drug testing stuff. And I'm guessing it's got to do with the legal ramifications about paying out bonuses and all that stuff. And it's finally official, because we just don't want, I guess, dopers to go out there and set records and collect checks. But I get it. But again, it takes away from the moment of recognizing oh, world record, but actually wait, not yet.
I'm not a scientist, so maybe I'm completely wrong on this, but if we put all of our best scientists on one vial of urine, can we not figure it out quicker than 4 months? Is it the sort of thing that you have to wait for the test to sit there for months and months on end? Or is it if everyone's in on it, we could probably get it done a little sooner, right?
It's like a COVID test stick, except they drop the P in there and it takes
that's
not
what
15 minutes, 4 months to process if the 2 red lines or one line. Mac, what are you selling?
I will say on that note, I do appreciate some accounts that do, like, we'll say USATF, for example, they just do the little asterisk now. They haven't been like oh, stop, everyone, hold up.
I think
It's
that's
not
because I
ratified
complained
yet.
about it. Yeah.
No one get excited. Now it's a little bit more like genuine and supportive and positive. Yeah.
What do you sell? What are you selling, Matt?
What am I selling? I'm selling in between distant, how do I want to say this? I'm selling the indoor 300.
Off
Okay.
distances.
Off distances.
Yeah, off distances. So if you have a 200 and a 400, get rid of the 300, make people race each other. Force people to go to the 400 or force people to go to the 200. And
do you know are you aware of the HEPS indoor schedule? There is everything under the sun in HEPS. Like if you're a mid-D runner, you are getting all Ivy League, because there is a 400, a 500, an 800, 1,000, a mile, a 4x4, a 4x8, a DMR. Like everyone is allowed to win something.
Some of these indoor meets, and I get it, like the agents are trying to get their athletes to run, and sometimes their athletes like aren't 100%. And this goes to your point, Kyle, where it's like people just need to race each other a little bit more. It's like, all right, I'm only going to show up if I'm going to run a 300 and I have none of my competitors in my race that I'm going to see outdoors.
Mac, you'll be happy
I
to
hate
know
that.
You'll be happy to know this year at the USATF Indoor Championships that they're not doing off distances. Normally in years in which there is no worlds, I think we always do an off distance. And there was supposed to be a worlds this year. I mean, China's opening back up, right? Like maybe we can pull this thing together last second right now. But there are no off distances this year, despite there being no world championships.
All right, Kyle, what are you buying this week?
Yeah, I'm going to buy Jake Whiteman losing. And I say this because you're the world champion, and I think there's now that expectation that you're going to win every single thing that you do. And it's very easy to just like not come out and run races until you're in that same form. And I thought, we saw an awesome battle between Phil Sessman and the 212 marathoner versus Jake Whiteman, a 143 800 meter runner at 3K last week in Sheffield. And, it looked like Jake had it, but he kind of just fell apart a little the last 15 meters. Phil was able to pass him by and get him at the dip. Both ran 7:54, Jake's run 7:37. It's a bit ways off. But, he still lined up and he raced, and he was second at that meet last year in a close finish in the 750, 751 range. And so, I'm happy to see people of that caliber racing, even when they are not at their absolute best.
All right.
No excuses after either.
I like it. All he did was show off the battle scars, and afterwards he just posted a photo, and that's racing. I like that one. All right. What am I buying? I'm buying Bobby Kersey, putting his foot down, I guess, on his training group, and has got some big promise. So he did an interview with Track and Field News where he said, I guess he was asked about just how the lack of Sydney McLaughlin racing is disappointing to fans because, she's probably one of the athletes who could break through into that Bolt stratosphere where it's like, anytime she races, she's captivating and people should watch it. She said, Bobby Kersey said in the interview, I'm with you more and the fans. I would love to see Sydney compete more, and Sydney wants to compete more. This year, it's going to be totally different. We're probably going to be doing more if the situation remains the same or keeps getting better in terms of coming out of the pandemic. So, obviously the last couple of years have been tricky with racing opportunities, but last year was a full slate of calendars. I get the fact of focusing on breaking the world record and winning gold, but then he doubled down and put his feet on the ground when it comes to the 400 world record, which is what a lot of people have kind of floated out there as a possibility to attack. Bobby Kersey said she'll run the 400 this year if she's healthy. She's already qualified for worlds in 400 hurdles, and as well as a thing in the 800 as a coach that gives me the luxury of knowing that they're already in the event that they're capable of dominating. I have no problem letting the people know that we're going after the 400 world record, and we're going to try and take it down as low as possible. I believe that it could be done. Bobby Kersey, give the people what they want. I'm buying Bobby Kersey putting his foot down and saying we're taking down that 400 meter world record. Mac, what are you cashing in on?
I'm buying, in a similar vein, I'm buying LA track meets.
Okay.
I like the
Whoa,
idea.
I feel like you
Yeah.
flipped a little on this.
I have, but I'm only buying it if they commit to doing it long term. If this is a one thing and people don't show up this year and they bag it, then I'm selling it. You have to stay there every single year and you have to get the community involved. If they just show up and they're like, yeah, we have a thing, Mo, and that's the only thing they do and they announce it 24 hours beforehand, then I'm selling it, I'm throwing it away, get rid of it. But if you're going to be there and commit to being there all the way through the Olympics, then yeah, I'm buying it. I love it. But they've got to start with the actual community that's there, and form fans in that area long term. I love that because
Yeah.
meets used to be huge down there. But yeah, if it's a long-term investment, I love it. I'm buying it.
There's supposed to be an LA Grand Prix, this upcoming season put on by USATF. And so hopefully that, starts to set the wheels in motion for, that big meet to come into town because, we haven't really seen the new Mount Sac track like in its full glory. And then, they invested a lot in building up that facility. At first was supposed to host the 2021 Olympic trials. Then that got moved. I mean, if you put on a good enough show, you can make the case to possibly snag the trials from Eugene next year. So hopefully we'll see how the LA Grand Prix unfolds. But, we've got a really strong super team out there in LA with Kersey's group. And hopefully we do see some butts and seats at the LA Grand Prix this year. And just, all the other meets that are happening out in the California area, because it is a major market to tap into. So that is the buy or sell segment.
I'm also buying Olipop using code CITIUS25 for 25% off. All right, what's left on the docket, Chris?
Inside CITIUS Mag, I guess let's give people an idea of what we've got, around all of our content this week. So on the CITIUS Mag podcast this week, we put out an episode with Paige Stoner talking about her move to NAZ Elite. We've also got an interview with Josette Norris about the move to OAC, in addition to this episode that you just watched or listened to. In the lap count, Kyle, what was the big takeaway this week? I know you had your interview with Cruz Culpepper, but then also a recap of some races that took place out in Spain.
Yeah, we've had a lot of good European cross-country meets that we've been recapping as we're, the build up to the World Championships in Bathurst. So those are going to be happening soon. This weekend we've got the Houston half and full marathons on, which we're going to be keeping close eyes on. And then we're also watching the entries to see who's signing up to run the US Cross Meet, get an idea of who that US team might be in Australia. So it's kind of where we're in a few different seasons now that track is about to get underway. I think we've got a big meet at UW. We're going to see the Olympic gold medalist Matt Centrowitz lining up versus, I think, Charles Hicks and the NCAA champ Joe Wascom, 349 miler Johnny Gregorek. So we've got some stuff starting.
The college debut of Roisin Willis and Juliet Whitaker is also taking place at that meet. So another storyline to watch. On the video front, we've got a video coming out soon, I think, with the Very Nice Track Club after we sent Xavier Gallo. And then on the other podcasting front, Out of the Blocks, Jasmine and Caitlin did an interview with Alicia Johnson that should be out on Friday. So that is what's happening at CITIUS Mag. Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll catch you guys again next week. And many thanks to Olipop for supporting the show. See you guys next time. I love track and field.
Love it.